realistically, it was to look at real-world environments in which our vehicles operate in the regional setting, which is very different from those settings in Greater Sydney. So we wanted to see whether these buses performed in the same way or whether there are environmental impacts which impacted on their performance in a regional area. Well, the key questions are about whether our communities understand the changes to ZEB, whether our passengers and customers are willing to accept ZEBs, but also mostly about their performance in the regional setting and whether they can actually perform, they do what they say on the tin. Well, it's very interesting, particularly in the regional setting where a lot of operators haven't had the exposure to battery electric buses or vehicles in general, really. So there's a lot of range anxiety out there, and whether they were very different to drive from normal buses. But once we actually engaged with the operators, we found that we could allay a lot of those concerns. And then when they actually got the buses delivered, they were really happy with the buses and interacting with them. Well, the first deployment has been extremely successful. It's really showed us that these vehicles can actually perform better than we anticipated in a regional setting, that they're very adaptable, that the drivers enjoy driving them and can adapt to driving these buses to get better efficiency out of them, and also that our passengers actually love the journeys on these buses. What surprised most is really, and it's not really a surprise, but it's very much that we're really pleased to see how these buses has been able to perform across a range of different environments and operational areas. So, from hilly to flat to dusty to hot to dry to wet, we've seen consistent performances which have met our expectations and the expectations of our customers. Well, the Uton vehicles have been really well received by our operators and our customers. Our customers in particular have loved travelling on these buses, not only the quiet and smooth nature of the vehicles, but even the finish of the vehicles that you provided us for the trials has been exceptional. And the customer service with any issues that we've had with the vehicles, which have only been minor, principally have really been well received. Some of the larger operators are obviously anticipating moving into the ZEB space when they can get a bit more support from various partnerships like Transport for New South Wales. But a lot of the smaller operators still don't necessarily understand what it really means to operate zero-emission buses. So, for example, one of the things that the trial has shown us is that smaller operators could actually realistically operate a ZEB now within their environments where they've got three-phase power. But many of them would still be concerned around range anxiety and various other factors, which we've shown with these trials that that's not necessarily an issue. I think that the policy support, particularly within government, pushing towards sustainability and net zero has obviously played a big part in people being much more aware in our society around zero-emission buses and the role they can play within that. I think that what we do need, though, is a more consistent and cohesive approach towards enabling our operators to move easier and quicker transitions into zero-emission buses. And that's part of what these trials are going to be doing as well, is feeding that information back into transport so they can review the transition timelines to see where we can actually escalate the rollout of zero-emission buses in our regional spaces. Collaboration is instrumental, especially with trials where we're all going to come across things which we didn't foresee. You don't know what you don't know when you're getting involved in a trial. So the relationship between the operator, the supplier and transport has been unique in some areas in transport, but it's also proved to be really the way to actually produce a good trial, and the outcomes have been exceptional, I think, based upon those relationships that we've built. Local government and communities love the fact that they've got zero-emission buses. The big blue buses in those regional spaces has been a real talking point. Schools love them. It's given an opportunity for them to engage with their students even more around the science and the STEM-based activities. The little kids love them. They love the big bright blue bus, and all of the decor within the bus itself as well. They love the lighting and the USBs and everything else.